Hysteria by Megan Miranda, and this book was the very first thriller that I ever read. This book is about a girl named Mallory who killed her boyfriend, and she can't remember everything about that night, but she can feel Brian's presence. That's her boyfriend, Brian. She can feel his presence around her, and it's really actually kind of creepy. And her parents send her off to a boarding school so that she can just kind of take in everything that happened to her, but then people start dying, so that's not very good. And it's just a really good book. It was the very first thriller that I have ever read, and it didn't disappoint. I actually really want to read more thrillers now because of this book. It does have a little bit of a twist at the end that I wasn't expecting, but it really is a good book, and I just think that you guys should check that one out. The next book is Dancing in the Dark by Robin Bravati, and this book is unlike, I've never read a book like this before. And this book is about a girl named Diddy who really wants to be a ballerina, but it's against her religion because she's very, very Orthodox Jewish. And this book is different because it's told mostly in flashback. And you know in movies they have like flashbacks and those are really, really interesting, but I've never read a book that the majority of the book is flashback. So that's really interesting and cool. At the beginning of the book, Diddy is sneaking out of her house to go to a recital that her father forbade her to go on. And her father catches her and he says, if you do this, you're no longer a part of my family. And then it starts going back to when, I think it goes back to like 7th grade, and now she's like in her high school years. So it's really interesting to go back, and I loved learning about this culture and religion, and it was such a very interesting thing to be thrown into, and it was just really interesting to see how Diddy would take care of things and figure out how to get into dance class and how to do all these things, because it really was against her religion and she could get in so much trouble. So this does, I know some people don't enjoy books that have to do with religion, but this book just really has a different feel to it. It brings out something that I've never read before, and I think Robin Bravati did a very good job with describing dance and the way that Diddy felt about dance, because you don't really, dance is a very visual thing, so when someone can describe the feeling or the way that dance looks, it really is a gift, and it was such a good book. The next book is Sign Language by Amy Ackley. This book is a tearjerker. It is about a 12-year-old girl named Abby North whose father gets cancer. And this book was a little different than I thought it was going to be. We start when Abby's in, I think, the 6th or 7th grade, and we follow her until she's a sophomore in high school. It starts off when she's super young, but we get to really know her and we get to know how she feels and everything. And it's such a different thing because I have never read a book where we follow a person for like 4 years of their life. It's just really interesting to see how she changes and how she really develops as a character in this short time, and it's just such a treasure book. This one really was a random find. I know without Goodreads I wouldn't have been able to find this book, and I really hope that I can bring it out and have you guys read it too, because it is such a cute and touching book. The next book is an anthology, and it's called Twice Told. It includes authors like Sarah Dessen and John Green, and it is such a great book, and it's really interesting. I wish I had it with me. There will be an illustration, and 2 authors will take that illustration and write a story based off of it, and it's really interesting to see how different authors will interpret an illustration. Some of the stories were not the best in my opinion, but some of them I wish were full-length books because I could not get enough, and it just was such a treasure because I've never read a book like this before, something where they give you an illustration and you read 2 different perspectives of it. And I think that was really important because most times we read one perspective of something and we don't really see how other people interpret it, but by seeing these 2 different authors interpret it, it was just really great. I think you guys would like it, and there are pictures, guys, so it's like we're all little kids again. pictures are an upside. The next book is Graffiti Moon by Cradle. This one is a pretty recent read for me, and it is so good. It's about a girl named Lucy and a guy named Ed. This story starts on the last day of Lucy's 12th grade year, so the last day of high school. And there's this guy who paints graffiti everywhere, and like it's really powerful graffiti for her, and then someone else puts poems in the graffiti. So they're known as Shadow and Poet, and she's been looking for them for the longest time. She really thinks that Shadow is her soulmate because of his art and how beautiful he is and how beautiful his art is, and that she feels like they would really get along. And then there's Ed, a guy that Lucy used to date, who just so happens to be Shadow, and his friend Leo just so happens to be Poet, and he dropped out of school. He's just really having a hard time, and art is his only escape. So that night, a group of his friends and a group of her friends get together, and for some reason they decide to go try and find Poet and Shadow, even though Ed and Leo are right there. And it goes on this really cool, fun, elaborate adventure. This book is really different because of the art. I think that graffiti isn't really an art that is touched upon a lot because it is illegal, but it is beautiful. I have to say, graffiti is beautiful, and the way that she described it in this book was so amazing. I've never heard of or read about art that was described in such a way as this, and it was just so gorgeous. I loved both characters because it was in dual perspectives, one chapter Lucy, one chapter Ed, and then there was also some chapters that were Poet or Leo, and it was just really good. And it's not a fluffy type read, but it is one of those things that happens in one night kind of reads. So, but do not get me wrong, there is some hard topics in here that is touched, but it is just a really, really great book. If you enjoy art, this book is for you, even if you don't enjoy art. Yes. So this next book, I'm going to talk about it, even though I've raved about it before, and it's a really hard book to talk about because it is extremely complicated that I can't even. But the book is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. This is a classic, and I don't really enjoy classics very much, but this one was the first classic that I could say I absolutely positively loved. And it's a sci-fi dystopian type book, and there aren't never really any classics that are like that I've known of before. And there's the one problem about this book, and why I was having problems with adding it to this video, is that the plot is so out there that you literally cannot describe what the book is about. I was going to just take the summary off of Goodreads and read it to you guys, but it's just so confusing that it doesn't make sense. I did do a review of this book, and I will leave it over the picture here, and I think I did a better job of explaining what the book was about if I can explain what the book is about, but it's really just one of those that you have to take my word for it and read it, because it is just so good. I've never read a book where the author created a religion. I've never read a book where the author created a religious book, where the author created a country, where the main character is almost untrustable. It's just really good. I'm sorry I cannot give more about it, but it's definitely one of my favorite books of all time, like in my top 5. It's so good. Just take my word for it. Watch the review. It's really good. The next book is Stolen by Lucy Christopher, and this book is, when I was reading this, my friend called this the stalker book, and I got lots of crap for it, but I don't care because it's really, really good. And this book is about a girl named Gemma, and she is at the airport with her parents, and she gets abducted and taken to the Australian outback, complete desert, nowhere around, and her captor just kind of takes her and wants to be with her there. And the book is formatted in a letter to her captor, so it's in second person, but that doesn't really take away from the book in my opinion. This book is really different because it's almost as if the land becomes a character. The way that she describes the land, it has feelings, it has hopes, it has dreams, and it's just so beautiful to be able to understand how she felt about that landscape and everything. And then after I finished this book, I had to just go look up exactly what the deserts in Australia looked like, and they were exactly how I pictured them in my mind because they were just so beautiful. This storyline could be a little hard for some people to read about because it is about a girl who gets abducted and taken away from her family, and there are some parts that may be a little hard to read, but in the end I was really happy with the outcome of the book, and I actually kind of wanted more, but I really liked the way that it ended, and it's a standalone, so the whole point of it is to end right there, even if you do want more. But this book is really good, and I think you guys should definitely check it out. The last book that I have for you guys is also another recent read, and it is The International Kissing Club. And this book is so much fun. This book is about 4 girls, and one of them has a tragic embarrassment that ends up going viral on Facebook at the beginning of the school year, and she decides that she just needs to get away from everyone, and it's not okay for her to be going through all this embarrassment and stuff. So her and her 3 best friends decide to go on foreign exchanges to different parts of the world, and they make a Facebook page called the International Kissing Club, and there they just kind of talk about the kisses and the fun stuff that they do on their foreign exchanges, and they kind of make like a pointing system. So one kiss, a normal kiss, is 1 point, and an outstanding, out of your mind kiss is 3 points. And at first this book was a little slow for me, but after a while I could not put it down. It felt like I was watching those movies that you watch with your friends when you have all the girls over, and just like one of those movies that, those iconic sleepover movies. I felt like that's what I was watching, and it was just so good. It does switch perspectives from girl to girl, even though it is in third person, but it does switch perspectives from girl to girl, so you get to follow each girl to where they go. One of the girls goes to Australia, another one goes to Paris, another one goes to China, and one of them has to stay in Texas because her family can't afford it. But it is just such a good book, and it's just one of those fun light reads that you just makes you smile, and definitely had a smile on my face the whole time I read this. That is it for the 16 standalone books that I think need more recognition. Depending on how the feedback is from this video, I may have more of these in the future, because I'm always finding cool standalone books that I think you guys should definitely know about, and that should get more recognition in the booktube community and in the world in general. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video, if you like standalones more than series, or anything that you want to say down in the comments. And I hope you guys have a wonderful booktastic day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!